Okay, so today we're going to take a look at the Hornby R3286TTS, and this is a DCC fitted. It comes fitted with a DCC decoder and with Hornby's digital TTS sound. So I was at a model railroad sort of meetup in Los Angeles this afternoon. I was pretty excited to come across a Class 40 because they're pretty rare in the U.S. unless you're ordering from somewhere like Hatton's and you get it sent overseas. So it was kind of nice, and this is the first time I've had a Hornby or any double O scale Loco with sound built in. I've never purchased a railroad edition before. Most of my Hornbys, since I scale both HO and double O, are usually super detailed or railway line. So it's kind of interesting to give a look and see what the railroad is like and how much bang for the buck you get. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of conflicted on this Loco. It looks beautiful, although part of that is probably due to the fact that, let's take a look here. It comes expertly weathered by TMC. I don't know who this is, and I assume whoever owned this before, or maybe the hobby shop had this done. But I do feel that part of the reason that the locomotive looks as good as it does on camera is because of the weathering and not necessarily because of, Hornby's sort of stock paint job that they have on here. With that said, we'll go ahead and jump into it. So I'm going to split the video up into a few different things, and I'll try to mark it on the video since, you may find this in the future and you're searching on eBay and you just want to get an idea of what it sounds like. We'll go through the sound, then I want to talk about the decoder, since if you have double O scale locomotives that you're running in the US, you've no doubt found that they probably don't run that smooth. So I'll talk about that. And then I'm going to take it off the track after we've watched it go back and forth a little bit, and I will show you the detail up close and then actually take it apart and show you what the inside of a railroad looks like, which is pretty basic. I already had to make some modifications just to get it to run smooth. So let's go ahead and start it up. Now before I start the sound, the very first thing I noticed about Hornby TTS, and again I'm a first time owner with the TTS models, is how ridiculously loud it is. I mean, I really can't emphasize this. I've heard other reviewers say the same thing, but it is stupid loud. And you can do a quick adjustment, 0 through 8, 0 being mute, and 8 being the loudest. And what you hear in a second is on number 1, and you can't take it down, at least that I'm aware of, any lower than that. So it's pretty loud. So we'll go ahead and listen to the startup. We'll do short horn and long horn. And then we'll shut it back down again. Okay, so because the motor's so loud, I'm going to go through some of the other CV values with the motor off, but I'll show you the compressor, the fan, the whistle, all that stuff. So before I show you that, there is a notch up, notch down, and a thrash mode. And what the thrash mode is it's sort of a British terminology for when the engineer kind of cranks forward on the gas, you sort of pedal to the metal, and you see that, that deep black diesel smoke coming out. So you can imitate that through sound on this, and you press 7 while it's running, and it actually is pretty accurate. It sounds pretty good. One of the things is, if you listen to the horn here, one of the things that's sort of weird about the Hornby compared to, say, like an Economy that you might find on a Thurn is that it almost functions as a soundboard, rather than it sort of has like interactive, how would I explain it? If you've run an Thurn Economy or you've run something like Wow Sound, any of those, there's almost like a natural flow to it as the train moves back and forth. And if you hold down the horn continues to play, and then you let go and then it stops. With the Hornby, it doesn't really do that. You can't hold down the horn and sort of imitate, those two-tone horns you see on the videos with the Class 40s thrashing along. You can't do that. Instead, you're just sort of stuck with what Hornby gives you, which is why I call it kind of a soundboard decoder. But in any case, let's listen to some of the other sounds. This is the compressor. We'll listen to the door slam. And the fan. Notice that? See how the compressor almost kind of mutes for a second and then comes back on? It doesn't really sort of mix. So I'm going to turn the compressor off. And we'll listen to Longhorn and Long Low. And we've got Primer. That's actually kind of a cool one. We got Slow Flange Squeal. Turn that off. And we'll do Spirax Valve. And then there's short low, short high. We'll go ahead and skip that. And next we'll do Wagons Buffering. Nope, that's not the one. Okay, so it doesn't want to do it. So let me try Wagons Clanking here. Doesn't want to do that one either. Let's try Coupling. There we go. I'm not sure what that was all about. We'll do the Guard Whistle. And I have no idea what keeps doing the horn. And then we'll do Locomotive Buffering. And there it goes with the horn. So that's Hornby for you, I guess. All right, so you've listened to basically most of the sounds here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start it up. I'll run it back and forth, let you know how smooth it is. And then one quick thing, this particular model has 4 wheels. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it needs you to have a minimum radius of 438 millimeters, or I think they refer to that as a radius 2. In the US, if you're running something like Bachmann Easy Track, the typical curves that you would find on Amazon or say Hobby Lobby, something like that, it'll run just fine. And in fact, most Hornby locomotives, to their credit, I think understand that a lot of people don't always have these massive basements to run their trains. And so if you have a tight radius curve on your layout, it'll run just fine. It won't look prototypical, but it'll run it. The wheels don't scratch. It doesn't come off the track. In fact, it runs really, really well around tight curves. So if that's something that's holding you back from buying this and you happen to find it somewhere for a good deal, it'll run just fine. So let's go ahead and start it up, and we'll run it back and forth, and then we'll get it onto the table. That's at about a speed step 10, which is pretty good. Let me unlock the camera there. And we'll bring it back one more time. I'm going to run this on speed step 5. This is an NCE power cab. So we'll run this on 5. It's actually, let me get it in camera here and I'll show you what speed step 5 looks like. There you go, that's 5. Take it up to 15. And 25. All right, let's go take it off. We'll go ahead and take it off the track, take it over to the table, and let me show you the insides, the guts, the decoder, and we'll talk about a few things. Okay, so if you know anything about running 00 in the US, you'll know that they're kind of finicky little engines. And one of the issues that I had when I started running 00, the Hornbys, the Bachmann branch lines, is that they would run horrible on my US layout. Now, what I found is that I used to run NCE decoders in there. I have an NCE DCC setup and I love it, but the NCE decoders do not work well in these things. What I found is that, I sometimes would have to crank it up to a speed step of 20 and sometimes higher just to get this thing to move, and it wasn't very realistic, and I would kind of tweak the torque compensation, the midline, start busting out calculators and, just doing whatever I could to really get this thing to run well, and any of the Hornby or Bachmann branch lines that I own, and it wouldn't run well at all. So what I figured out is I had some TCS decoders in some of my Proto 2000s and my Atherns, and those ran great, and they have something called back EMF in. And without getting too technical, basically what it does, it reads the motor and automatically applies power without you having to mess with anything to basically keep the locomotive going. The trade-off is that if you're going down a hill or up a hill, the loco will go the same speed no matter what, without intervention from the user. And some people, if you're prototypical, if you run prototypical, you may have an issue with that. For me, I prefer that. I would just rather my locos run smooth. I can drink my coffee and just kind of enjoy, looking at them go around. And so once I picked up a TCS decoder and started putting those in, they would run at speed steps of 2 and 3, and they would it was like night and day. So Hornby's decoders seem to have that back EMF built in, and that really does make quite the difference. And so if you've never had a Hornby decoder, I think they run great. In terms of performance, in terms of sound, I don't know. So these guys run about $150, and I have a Google Pixel here, so my mat is blue, and it doesn't always show the colors real well. So let's go ahead and remove this. Let's get this out of here. It's Google and all its wisdom and technology can't seem to get their cameras to recognize colors very well. Let's bring this out of the way here. Bring the train back over so you can get a closer look. Yeah, that's closer to what the green actually looks like. So, okay, so let me just kind of show you just up close what this looks like, and then I'll get into some of the issues and some of the things I didn't like if I had bought this, MSRP, or if you're thinking about doing the same thing. And you can feedback in the comments below if Hornby's changed. I think this is a 2014 model, so they may have done some things differently since then, but not super impressed. Another thing is, which is kind of disappointing, is almost every loco that I have, HO or 00, has LEDs. This came with no LEDs, and I find that unlikely to be a prototypical thing. I'm pretty sure the Class 40s, I haven't been home in a long time, but I think the Class 40s have two sort of number plates here on the side. That may be if they're passenger, and they light up, and I think that is their primary lighting source. This has no LEDs in it, so I'm going to look into picking up some and trying to retrofit it or something, but no LEDs. It only comes with the sound. So let's talk a little bit about the sound here, and I'm going to try and take this off. So here's my plastic opener. The one thing with Hornbys, I have like a few Atherns that are running economy decoders, which are supposed to be more affordable, similar to how Hornby does their railroad lines. And when you're running those Atherns, they have sort of a natural flow as you're kind of driving the loco around the track. Whereas Hornbys, it's almost like it really is like a soundboard. You can't hold the horn down. A lot of the effects are sort of it just reminds me of those internet soundboards where you can push the buttons. And I don't know, I'm just not super impressed. Now, if you have any experience with Hornby, you'll know that their older models, especially between like 2000 and 2010, they're built like tanks, real heavy, really durable. You don't feel nervous and sweaty when you take one apart for oiling and maintenance because it's built so well. With the railroad models, that's not the case. So you'll notice first, I've got some of these half-ounce 14-gram weights in here, and I had to add 2 to each side. And the reason why is it's not a strong puller. It didn't run as well as, like, for example, my Bachmann branch lines. And so I added this on each side. Thankfully, there was room. And then another thing, and I hate this, is I don't know why manufacturers still do this, is they've got these rubber tires. Now, I know this doesn't bother some people, but it drives me nuts because they end up leaving just dirt all over the tracks. And really, I think what the manufacturers are trying to do is they're trying to cut costs. So rather than using weight, they'll use they'll use these rubber tires here, and they just create such a mess that you have to go back and use a track eraser or something like that. But I have some aftermarket. Check on eBay. There's a guy, I wish I knew his name, but just type in traction HO traction tires or OO traction tires, double O traction tires, and he sells some clear ones that work pretty well, and they won't leave as much mess. But that was a disappointment right out of the box. Second thing is without the weights, it's extremely light. And I like to, the moment I get my Locos, I take them apart, I oil them, and everything on here is plastic. Let me see if I can kind of show you something I noticed earlier. I was kind of surprised. I was just expecting more when I sort of took it apart. Let's see if I can find it. Where's the pickups here? So let's see if I can kind of get in there. If you notice, see that pickup? Let me get my pointer here. That black part right there is a pickup, and you'll notice there's a little hole. That is supposed to attach to this, but it's popped off, and actually it's kind of snapped off in the packaging. This was new used stock, and this is not the first time that I've seen this with Hornby, and it just looks like they're kind of slapped together. It's not what I remember, when I was growing up as a kid in Wales. They were just built so much better, and again, it's the railroad lines. I'm not going to give them, such a hard time. I know the railway stuff that I have in their super details built much better than this, but the motors just looks to be some kind of an upgraded Ringfield motor. Sort of reminds me of what you would see in the older, like, HST 125, the DC models. Just a little bit better than that, but in all fairness, it does run extremely smooth, far better than those DC models ever did. You can see you got your decoder right here, and it's just kind of barely strapped on with this little rubber band here. You got the speaker, and then to keep the wires down, out in Shenzhen, they've just kind of put this sort of tar stuff on, and I'm guessing this just makes things faster for them. But come on, could at least, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess if it works, right? But it just there's not that attention to detail that once upon a time you would have expected from a company like Hornby. But I don't want to knock them too hard. I mean, if you were to pick this up for like $100, 100 US, or maybe 70, 80 pounds, hey, if you've got a ton of trains and you're just looking to add some extra rolling stock, this is it's a pretty good deal. Add a little bit of weight to it. Once the shell's on, nobody knows you've got this sort of crappy Ringfield motor in there, and you'll do just fine. And they look great, and in all fairness, they run smooth. Not the strongest puller, not the most realistic sound, but you get a decoder with it. And if you were to purchase, say, a super detail separate and add in, say, a wow sound decoder or something like that, you're looking at adding another $80 to what might already be a $300 purchase. So, but hopefully this helps. You've seen the shell, kind of what it looks like in here. If you get one of these that are in pristine condition versus the weathered, I would say weather it right away, just because it's not particularly detailed compared to, like, give me 1 second here. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to bring over one of my branch line Locos. Okay, so I brought this one over because it's the closest one I have to this guy back here. Now, straight off the bat, you cannot compare a Hornby railroad, to something like a Bachmann branch line or a railway. But if you've never purchased a railroad like me, I do want you to kind of see the difference. And so, there's just a lot more detail. You can kind of see the little rivets on there. Everything is individually painted. You got the kind of little guy in the front. The fan is separate on the top than just being kind of molded and stamped in there. There's just extra attention to detail. And I haven't even put on all the additional parts onto this guy here. So yeah, that gives you kind of like a comparison between the two. Again, not bad if you get it on sale or for the right price, but comparatively, not close. And most of the, I think most of the reason this looks good is it's so heavily weathered. So if you're a weathering guy, you know, it'll do just fine. So, yep, hopefully that helps. This is what the outside looks like. This is what the inside looks like. This is not going to be something you're going to pass down from one generation to another, but it gets the job done. And again, if you pick it up for, you know, under $100, I think it'd be fun. Otherwise, I do suggest you spend a little extra money on getting getting something like the railway line or the super detail. So thanks so much for watching, and hope to have another review for you soon.